Complex, 24 Reed Avenue. We're also going to be streaming through Zoom and Facebook as always. Anyone that has any questions pertaining to tonight's agenda, please email pnopper@townofstanders.ca, and Mr. Nopper will make sure to put that in the comments to make sure that you know that ST in this case is the for Saint versus SAINT. It's always hard in this town to keep up with that, but let's get into the recording of attendance. I note that all members of council are in attendance. There we go. Welcome back, Councillor Gumashel. Yeah. Doesn't look like you've been exercising much while you were gone. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Peskotomuhkati people. Let's get into the approval of the agenda. We are going to add a closed session item, but it is listed as already in the agenda. Closed session as an item. So I'll be looking for a mover to accept the agenda. I've got Councillor Harlan and seconded by Councillor Neal. Any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye. That has been carried. Disclosure of conflict of interest, any this evening? Okay, we're going to jump into the community service awards. I'm going to switch spots here quickly. All right, so it's time to give away the annual town appreciation awards and volunteer awards. It is always an honor to do this. You know, a lot of us that are actively involved in St. Andrews know that it's nothing without the volunteers. Literally almost every single organization in our community is made possible by volunteers. And in a lot of cases, it's been a small group of volunteers that have carried this community for a number of years, but we are starting to get some new participation. And this evening we are celebrating, I guess you could say, a bit of a mixture, but definitely very dedicated volunteers to the town of St. Andrews. So the first one is actually, we did change the format a little bit. We kind of did it by category now, and we're limiting it to 6 awards every year. But the first one is actually just a service award, which is a crucial one because at the end of the day, without services in this community, we have very little to offer, obviously. So Spindrifters are a very well-known organization in this community, a very active participation. You know, those of you that even see the group that walks around town, there's a number of people, and we've had a lot of activities over the years at the WC O'Neill Arena Complex. As well, this individual has been instrumental in chair exercises and bi-weekly exercises for seniors. I was told to keep this very short tonight by a couple of the people that are receiving this, so I'll leave it at that, but I do want to recognize Carol McLean for all her contributions to the town of St. Andrews. All right, the next one is a leadership award, and I think St. Andrews, we've had a number of people, like I said, that have carried the torch for a number of years. But one thing that might be a little bit of a challenge is the next generation getting involved in volunteering, and it's not every day that you have someone that is in this town. I will say the good news is when you come back home and you're still in your 30s, you're considered young. But there is a young person, even though probably he doesn't feel that young these days, but he is a dragon boat champion as well, but we won't get into that. You know, here's an example of someone who was originally from the community, moved away, had some great experiences, got some work experience, but ultimately wanted to return to the community they love. And not only did they return, but instantly start raising their hand. I would say this individual probably learned that when you raise your hand for one organization, they all start coming. And it's kind of the second thing you have to learn when you come home is to say no. But this individual certainly has said more than his fair share of yeses. Paul Logan is the president of the Chamber of Commerce. He's actively involved with the Kiwanis. He's been a key organizer with the Walwig Warriors, creating a scholarship fund for graduates, and the list goes on. So I know you've been back in town for a while, but I still want to keep saying welcome home. We're glad to have you here. And this leadership award is presented to Paul Logan. You want a speech? No, thank you. No? So the next volunteer, I'll be honest, pretty much whenever I see her, that's what she's doing. She is one of the kindest people I know. To be honest, every time I talk to her, she's so kind that it actually makes you feel good about yourself. And I don't say that about a lot of people. Whether it's at the curling club, she is, often at the yacht club, whether it be one of Councillor Gubichel's crazy race ideas going from across the beach, Minister's Island, but it's so many different places that you run into this individual. And I know our partner, Roger McNabb, certainly a hard one to keep up with because that's all he does. But I think Jane Lozier has been doing so much for so long, and I think it's very important that we recognize her today. So thank you, Jane, for all you do for this community. And this is a teamwork award because she's always parts of teams making this possible. Yeah. This next person certainly likes being up in front and center of attention. No, definitely not. She's already squirming, already making her squirm. This is an innovation award. I know that it's kind of a team award as well, but a lot of you are familiar with the Shiretown Community Kitchen and kind of that soup that they do on Fridays. But the one that's actually in the kitchen that's really guiding these youth on kind of life skills, to be honest, but also some of these people have actually gone on and are actually right now studying culinary and doing different things. Multiple actually are that have been involved in this program. But not only does it go with that, but Helen Ann Smith has, I don't know how many fundraising dinners she's been involved with in this community. I know that I'm forgetting stuff with all of your service because there's too many, but whether it be someone who's battling cancer in her community, whether it be a not-for-profit just trying to have a fundraising dinner, I personally have leveraged her because she makes it affordable where you can actually raise money for your cause. And we know how tough that is right now. And she's probably already mad at me for talking this much about her, but I think it's well overdue that Helen Ann Smith get recognized by the town of Sierras for all her volunteerism. And she's really keen to come up here. And then this next individual, I know that she's recently retired, too young to be retired, I'll say for the record. Her husband's a lot older than her and he's still working. But a lot of people know that obviously from the Peskotomuhkati Lodge and everything she's done through her position, also coordinating volunteers and things like that. But I don't think people realize the age-friendly community initiative if you haven't been actually involved in it or on council for a long time. But the age-friendly community initiative was probably one of the largest volunteer initiatives that we've seen in this community in a long time. And again, for a career that was serving the community, but also a kind of a career full of volunteerism. I know that we're still going to leverage you on a lot of other things, but I do want to recognize Leslie LeBlanc for all her contributions. And this is a special appreciation award with her retirement. And I do want to recognize one more. The individual is not here, but we created a new award this year. It's a youth award. And this individual has already raised their hand volunteering in the community. The individual is Jacob Hulse. Jacob, I remember him and Gregor, actually Neil, they were actively involved with the fire, the forest fire, and actually serving, but also responding to a number of calls. And the other thing is sometimes a summer job, you can go above and beyond and really make it special for youth in our community. And the leadership that he demonstrated through Sale St. Andrews, he basically was the one that took the kids out, did the entry level to them, but also the advanced level. You don't see a youth that's able to just grab a program and lead it like that too often. So he's not here, but we'll make sure to present it at a later date when he's back in town. But congratulations to Jacob Hulse for the Youth Award for the Town of St. Andrews Appreciation Awards. And I'll go back to my usual spot. All right. So thank you for that, Council. Good to recognize volunteers in our community. It is important to note that we do have an application process every year for that, but I think at any given time, if you want to nominate someone, just send it into Town Hall. Mr. Knopper will file it for our annual conversation on community awards. There was a couple other nominations, and we will celebrate those at future times as well. But definitely a number of candidates worthwhile to celebrate in our community. Approval of minutes. Is there any changes to any minutes? I'm going to fly through them like I always do, unless there's something someone wants to notify. All right, let's fly through then. So the first minutes to approve are the minutes of the 230905 regular council meeting on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. Can I have a mover for those minutes? I've got Councillor Heenan, seconded by Councillor Neal. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. Those are carried. The minutes of the 230906 special council meeting on Wednesday, September 6, 2023, 6:30 p.m. Could I have a mover for those? I've got Deputy Mayor Akaji and seconded by Councillor Bennett. All in favor of those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Those ones are carried. And our last set are the minutes of the 230918 regular council meeting on Monday, September 18th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. Once again, looking for a mover. I've got Councillor Harlan, seconded by Councillor Hurdle. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. They're carried. We are now jumping in, communications. I'll save mine for the end under the mayor's comments. We will jump right into the staff reports at this time. So over to you, Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Worship. Council, autumn is certainly in the air as the leaves change color, the nights get cooler, and we all return to a more scheduled life that is mostly abandoned in the summer. However, fall also allows us to plan for next year, to work to move the community forward and to indulge in this year's harvest. Under council business, this past Wednesday night on the 27th, Compass Housing returned to council to make a presentation on a challenge they are facing, but also to provide an update on construction. They have asked for an amendment to the development of agreement, which there will be a public hearing of objections on Thursday, October the 19th, as required under the Community Planning Act. The Heritage Board hosted a couple of meetings today to go through orientation and meet with the heritage planners from Fredericton. Although I was away, others reported that it was a great session and picked up a lot of good ideas in organizing the board and the process that made a heritage bylaw successful in the capital city. We are very grateful for their help and look forward to future interactions. Last month, we had a presentation from CBCL on a few options to complete the refurbishments of the wharf. We have been asked to go to more public consultation to discuss the various options, but to also focus on the timeline needed, total cost, and the aesthetics of the wharf. Each aspect is important on its own and makes the decision that much harder when trying to balance all of them. Staff will prepare some items and plan to meet with individual stakeholder groups, including users, the business community, and downtown businesses. We will also have a community open house in late October and consult with key stakeholder groups over the same period as well. The St. Andrews Biological Station will continue to use our wharf for the next few years until theirs is replaced. As part of the transition, they have asked to place a jib crane and install 3-phase power on our wharf to meet their needs. In collaboration with engineers and our consultants, we've determined that both of these services can be added with minimal disruption to our other users. They are aware of potential disruption of use because of our project, but still deem the installation a necessity for their operation. We will provide an operating agreement between them and the town in the next meeting or two for your perusal, but wanted to bring you up to date on this ongoing initiative. I would like to congratulate all the community award winners from earlier this evening. It is because of your leadership and contribution to the community that St. Andrews, Bayside, and Shamcook are such great places to live. Administrative. I am happy to report that the town was awarded $200,000 from the Green Municipal Fund from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to be used towards a study to lower the greenhouse gas emissions of our 5 most power-consuming facilities. A consulting firm will have to assist us in preparing a tender document to have the study done. Not surprisingly, one of the facilities is the arena, so we hope to be able to start the study over the winter in case they need to collect real-time data during the coldest months of the year. Congratulations to Invest for their acquisition of the Algonquin Hotel and Resort and for their interest in further investment in the community. On September 26th, a day-long celebration was held, including tours of the hotel, lunch, dinner, and a golf game. The mayor and I were invited to participate and get a chance to meet the new ownership group, their management team, and other stakeholders from across Canada. In addition to the hotel property, they have plans for continued investment in other properties within the community. Hurricane Lee made a visit during the weekend of September 16th, and all in all, the region at large seems to have made out pretty well. Although several trees fell as a result of the high winds, there appear to be minimal damage to any structures locally. I am grateful for the work of our staff pre, during, and post-storm to minimize the effects of Lee. The biggest item out of our control was the power grid, but despite the challenges faced by NB Power, most community residents had their power back on by Sunday night. Last Wednesday night, Council had their first look at the 2024 operations budget for both the general and utility funds. Staff put forward a few initiatives to increase services and opportunities, but certainly anything we present is up for discussion and acceptance. For the time being, I assume that tax revenue growth of 5%, which should be achieved by growth in the assessment base. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, the Department of Local Government will release several key figures, including the actual assessment, policing cost, and the unconditional grants. Staff are also preparing capital budgets for year review, which are tied very closely to the operation budgets for debt servicing and tax rates. We propose to hold another meeting a week from today on October 10th to continue the process. Under services, with the onset of fall, our municipally owned museums and facilities were closed by September 15th. As we grow the shoulder season and see more cruise ship passengers from the Port of St. John, Council may want to consider extending the season another few weeks. The continued ice plant refurbishment is completed and the arena will be ready for another season by October the 10th. The major users have already set their schedules for 23-24, and we are filling in public skating times as well. An updated schedule will be released shortly. Actually, the ice is about half done if you stuck your head in the arena tonight. Water bills will be a bit late getting out this period as we continue to move towards consumption-based billing next spring. The bills will be released by late October. It is noteworthy that our building permits, we have building permits to date with a total construction value of $13.7 million. If all goes to the assessment base in 2024, that is in itself a 2.2% increase. The fire department had a busy month with 24 calls, of which 18 were alarms and 10 ended up being canceled before the firefighters dispatched, although many were likely on their way to the fire hall. The chief is working with property owners who have multiple alerts to ensure their equipment is functioning properly and not communicating false alarms. I would also like to note 2 of our female volunteers provided assistance at Camp Courage, an initiative to show young women the opportunities available to be first responders. The campers were put through drills and training over a week. Then on the last day, local female first responders teamed up with them to put their new skills to a worldly application. In conclusion, with Thanksgiving and Indulge coming up, there's still a lot to do locally. The recreation manager is going to provide more activities throughout the fall and winter to keep residents of all ages entertained and occupied. We are open to any new ideas, so please leave them with a councillor or staff member. Respectfully submitted, Chris Spear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spear. Appreciate that. Anything you'd like to highlight under the financials for this evening?
But the only thing, Your Worship, we have got the first draft of the projections done, and there's going to be somewhat of a surplus this year that'll be put towards capital projects for next year. Right now, we're worried about some of the things in public works after the fall we had with all the ice storms. But we have been able to play catch up mostly over the summer and look forward to a positive fall.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions on anything from the staff report this evening? All right. Could I have a mover to accept the staff reports? I've got Councillor Heenan and seconded by Councillor Blanchard. All in favor of accepting the staff reports? Those are accepted. Thank you very much. It brings us into the introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws. The first one would be the Finance Administration, Deputy Mayor Akaji.
Thank you very much, Your Worship and Council. Mine is FA 231015, And it's the Heather Curling Club lease agreement for 2023 to 2028. And the background is this. The town of St. Andrews and the Heather Curling Club partner on a lease agreement for the use of the curling rink and arena facility use on a yearly basis. Each year, the lease is reviewed and renewed by council. To help reduce administrative processes, the town is proposing a 5-year agreement with the Heather Curling Club that outlines processes and costs of rental for the arena space. Please see the attached document for more details. The Heather Curling Club is satisfied with the 5-year agreement on rental costs and use of the facility. Similarly, we have been establishing a five-year agreements with many community organizations to help with securing space and ongoing rental fees. So the motion is this, that the council of the town of St. Andrews approves the Heather Curling Club lease agreement for 2023 to 2028. And I so move this, your worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconder for that one. We've got Councillor Bennett. Discussion on this one? Okay, call the question. All in favor of approving this lease, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's everybody that has been carried. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. We're moving right along to Public Works with Councillor Blanchard.
Thank you, your worship. This is for reference number PW 231012. It's renovations to the Bayside Community Hall. The background, as part of local governance reform, the provincial government gave funds from the Canada Community Building Fund to the municipality that was previously part of the local service district's allocation. The amount allocated to the town of St. Andrews was $33,829. In order to receive funding, the town needs to submit a proposal to the Department of Local Government. The town is proposing funds to be used to support renovations at the Bayside Community Hall for the installation, excuse me, of 2 heat pumps and restoration of a parking lot. So the motion before council is that the council of the town of St. Andrews supports the allocation of the Canada Community Building Fund allocated under unincorporated areas to be used for the following projects at the Bayside Community Hall. 1, installation of 2 heat pumps for $17,000, and 2, restoration of the parking lot, $50,000, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard. Seconder for that one. Got Councillor Harland. Discussion on this one? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, your worship. I sent an email out earlier today kind of questioning this motion, the recommended motion. And I was asking for clarification, is what's written in this recommended motion is not in accordance with what I remember happening. So I was so uncertain. I questioned staff about this particular choice, and not that I disagree with the work that needs to be done or you know, the amounts that it's going to take to fix it. However, I did go back and I looked for the YouTube video for this particular moment in council on 1st of May 2023, and it turned out that that evening, for whatever reason, is not uploaded into YouTube. So I came into CHCO and talked to Patrick, and he did have a copy of it, and I went in. And between 7:16 p.m. and 7:23, staff proposed exactly what was said here. There was three initiatives to spend the money on. One was Bayside Community Hall, whatever it might need. One was the W.C. O'Neill complex, and one was to put additional money towards a trail system. Your worship, you spoke up against that. No councillors did, you did. You spoke up and you said that seems that this is a community money for Bayside and Shamcook, you suggested that would you actually, your term was, wouldn't you like to hear a request from Shamcook and Bayside? So you asked for consensus on that. Nobody disagreed with your comment, and it was left at that without a vote. Here before us tonight, it's suggested that we approve that this is the priority in Bayside. But that's not fact. I was very clear to find between 7:16 and 7:23 that all was said was that we will look at requests from Shamcook and Bayside, and that didn't happen. I'm wondering if someone could explain why it didn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. So what you're proposing is probably to table this, to open it up to have more discussion on other options as well. Because really, I think what it's a situation is I don't know if staff's been presented with any other projects related to this specifically. But the floor is open. If there was a project that you think that this money should go to, I think it would be good for council to know that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know that you're aware, and I've brought this up several times in front of council and staff, that I've been looking for $15,000 for work on Dock Road in Shamcook, and the public launch on Cummingham Beach. I've been pretty vocal about that on many occasions, and the fact that I've been very vocal about that and it didn't even make it to consideration to be put in front of council here tonight is a little disturbing. I get it that this work, and especially the heat pumps, can mean a significant savings to the power bill in Bayside. And I would strongly recommend that happen at the soonest available opportunity to have the savings in power and for the environment and all other good reasons. But the parking lot restoration, $50,000 is certainly outside of the budget that's presented here at $33,924, $928, whatever. But the balance from the $33,009 certainly allows for the funding to be approved for the other project in Shamcook. And I'm kind of at a loss on why that wasn't an option put in front of council tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. So again, just to the issue at hand, it doesn't seem like you have necessarily an issue at the Bayside Community Hall. You would just like to debate if the Dock Road would not be a greater priority than this particular project with these funds. Would that be safe to say?
I thought I just made it quite clear, Your Worship, that I believe that the heat pumps should be a high priority.
Yep.
However, the parking lot over there, I'm not sure that I feel that that's such a high priority that we spend money that wasn't budgeted for, but we do have budget to finish the project over on Dock Road.
Yep.
And that money could be equally spent in the two sub-communities, the two wards, and two projects could be completed. One at a great energy savings, and one fixing the road up so it's usable over on Dock Road in Shamcook. Okay,
So again, I understand the argument, but I'm wondering if you're looking to table this to bring it back, or what's your course of action? I hear what you're saying, but we need to do an action out of this, obviously. Right?
Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion that we consider the project in Shamcook on Dock Road, as well as the heat pumps for Bayside Community Hall, instead of just the heat pumps and the parking lot at Bayside Hall.
So would it be safe to say that you're not table, what you're doing is looking to amend the motion to have one installation of two heat pumps, 17,000, two restoration of Dock Road for 15,000? Would that be correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bennett. Thanks for your patience as we work through the course of action there. So we do have a mover for an amendment on this one. Do we have a seconder for this one? Councillor Neal has seconded it, so it's on the table. We have a mover and seconder. Discussion on this amendment. Councillor Harland.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Bennett, for bringing this forward in terms of perhaps some of the confusion around the process, because now I'm more unclear about the process. So if we had that discussion in May, I'm not clear on what the process would have been to seek ideas regarding what this money could go toward. Would it have been, and perhaps I as a councillor fell short on my responsibilities, but were we looking for community input? Were we looking for residents, particularly in Bayside and Shamcook, to put forward ideas? Did we advertise that? How would that get out to the public to understand what we were looking for? Because not everybody watches our council meetings and would necessarily know that that was the process. And were we, as the counselors for Bayside and Shamcook, should it have been our responsibility to go out and seek other ideas? Because I didn't do that. I acknowledge that I didn't. I know that you had been talking about the Dock Road for some time now, so I know that that was already on your radar. But I guess I'm just unclear as to what the process is in a situation like this.
Yeah, so basically it's formerly the Federal Gas Tax Fund, correct, is what this is. And I'll look to staff to kind of highlight what it could be used for, but I think you can always do more engagement. I'm not going to say you can't do more engagement and talk to people. I'd never say that, but I do think in this particular case, it was probably limited with the assets that are owned within the municipality. Is there any other, I'll look for staff on the guidance of why this came forward.
So your worship, I think, first of all, well, 33,000 sounds like a lot. It's relatively minor compared to a multi-million-dollar capital budget. So that's why we brought up in May, just with a few ideas. And you can go to a certain far, but with that amount of money, we just kind of were looking for ideas. Councillor Bennett brought up the Dock Road, yes, but we'd included it in next year's budget, as we discussed last week. So, you know, it didn't get lost off our radar with the timing. I don't know if we can get it done this year by the time we get it designed and stuff, but we can look at it. I'm good either direction, but we certainly weren't putting one project over another. We just kind of move them around a little bit when they could get fit into the timing a little better. So this funding's available. I agree about that. We don't have enough to complete the parking lot this year, but we'd probably put the difference back in the budget early next year and get it all done. So it's kind of the same thing, but it's, we discussed it at that meeting. We said the Bayside Hall was identified, so we just threw the 2 or 3 projects. The other thing was we had a report from XP, I think it is, the engineering firm, and they had given us a draft one that was inaccurate. I still haven't seen the new one. I asked for it about a month ago. So these 2 projects have identified here were just based on what the committee and staff have seen as important for that particular facility. But whatever, if we bring in the Dock Road, we'll just push forward to request to have the paving lot done next year. So over the next year, all 3 projects are going to get completed from staff's perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Ware.
I will comment since I do sit on the Bayside Hall Committee and well, I wasn't part of this decision. I understood what was behind it. I haven't seen the engineer's report as our CAO says, we don't have it, and we don't know what the engineer's report says. We've looked after the building, I think, exceptionally well over the last 30 years, and it's in good shape. And we're doing renovations right at this time, but the old hall committee is paying for those. Town's not on the hook for a penny for the renovations to the kitchen. At this point in time, we think we have enough money to do it on our own. The parking lot is getting rough. I was on it at what, 3:30 today? And, but it doesn't need to be done this year. Paving, I guess, never needs to be done immediately. And as far as the rest of the parking lot, I have some ideas to reduce the cost on that for the simple reason that I do have some contacts in the construction industry and in the aggregate industry that I should be able to get, you know, donations, reduced prices or something. And so being in Bayside, when I found out this money was available, I think I made the comment to, I don't know whether it was Councillor Bennett or Councillor Harlan, do you need a new ball field or something in Shamcook? To which the answer was no. And I don't have a problem with splitting it. I think splitting it is fair. I think Mr. Spears explained that they do have a plan to do all the projects that were brought up, the three of them. And it's a timing thing. So I'm supportive of it either way. I didn't go out and push for things because I understood it had to be town-owned property. The only thing the town owns in Bayside is the hall. Because I spoke about Simpson Hill Trails one time. You know, we're still looking after that ourselves, and it looks like we're gonna have to. But yet everybody uses them. But so I fully understand where Councillor Bennett's coming from. I would feel a little bit guilty, maybe a lot guilty if Bayside got it all. And again, that's just my sense of fairness. So I don't have a problem with the amendment from that point of view.
Thank you, Councillor Ware. Councillor Heenan.
Yes, your worship and council. Councillor Bennett, you've been talking about this dock for quite some time, and I'm surprised you brought it up in this matter because it is a budget item. And it was in the budget for consideration. So do you want it as part of this or do you want it in the budget?
Thank you, your worship. Councillor Heenan, I've wanted this to be dealt with since I got on council, and I brought it up multiple times throughout the year. And when I brought it up at appropriate times, I was told because it wasn't a budget item that it would have to be something dealt with in next year's budget. Lo and behold, about the same time that happened, a gift from the gods came, and $33,000 appeared from a magic genie, and it was identified by our mayor that it would be appropriate for that money to be spent in the wards. When we had that discussion on May 1st, although I really felt that after your discussion, talking about how the money, we should look at projects from the wards, I really felt that the project for Dock Road restoration would have been high on the priority to get put on the list to be looked at. So when I got my council package and I read that passage about how we'd agreed to put the Bayside Hall as a priority, it was somewhat perplexing. That's what drove me to go back and watch the video. And that certainly was misrepresenting the situation, because when that was finished, there was no priority put on. It was simply stated, wouldn't you like to hear requests from Shamcook and Bayside? So the council didn't give any direction that night. And just to right or wrong, to make sure that things are accurate, then it's clear to point out that we did not make Bayside Hall the priority that night on May 1st. So since that wasn't the priority, then tonight we're going to make a call on it. We're going to have a vote on it. And I think that the two projects should be presented to council that have been presented to staff. I don't know of any other ones, and if there is, please enlighten us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member council? Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for my memory, can someone remind me what are the upgrades we're considering for Dock Road, and what's the benefit to the community at large?
We're not really sure. Councillor Bennett has shown us, but it's not a town-owned asset, so we have to go out to bring DTI in to walk us through what we can do. But it was to restore some armor stone along the road as it approaches the beach, from what I understand. And so that the people that are using it to unload trailers and stuff that it's frequently used for, I guess, is to be able to do that safer without the road getting washed out over the winters, from my understanding.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, if you recall, the road to Minister's Island, we had to apply to the province to work on the end of the road because of all of the potholes and other things that were not being maintained. From my understanding, the Dock Road is the same way, in the sense that it was a washout that actually due to some development. There was a kind of a stream that went across it and some other things where it's just in a state right now where if you're going to put your boat in the water, it's pretty rough to get down in there. Would that be the best way to say it? So this would help restore it so it could serve for a number of years to come would be the idea behind this.
Your worship, if I can add to, I'm not discussing and I'm not proposing that we put a shovel in the ground below the tide line. That everything is above the tide line. The armor stone that's presently there, but in disrepair, is still above the tide line on the median tide. And the road itself obviously is well above the tide line. So I'm not suggesting that we have to. And when I talked to a local contractor, Peter Gowan, he repaired half the road 2 years ago. One of the local residents actually paid for it because it's access to his property. So he paid almost the exact same amount, $15,000 to Peter to repair the top half of the road. The bottom half of the road has not been looked at because there's no houses below the other gentleman's driveway. So the $15,000 would repair the road that's washed away and replace some of the armored stone, reset it to help protect the parking lot from the severe storms. Thank you.
Go to Councillor Harlan and Councillor Heenan.
So just a clarification, does this fund have to be used toward municipal assets? And something like a project like Councillor Bennett is talking about that requires us to work in conjunction with Department of Transportation, does that qualify?
Likely.
Likely?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says legible projects, local roads, bridges, active transportation, infrastructure. It gives a list of everything, but it's just,
Okay.
it doesn't, I'm sure there's more detail, but the overall, I can't see this not being covered in it, but we would have to do.
I'm sure it is. That the road itself, I guess, to take a step back, I said it was Department of DTI's road. I guess to take a step back, it's called an unassumed road. So everyone close their eyes and no one wants to take any responsibility for it. And so a lot of
Okay.
times private landowners will upgrade these certain types of roads. And I think where it's a publicly used facility for the residents out there and others for their boat ramp, we maintain one in town here. It certainly is a worthwhile project.
Okay.
But yeah, it does say local roads, highway, it doesn't specify it has to be municipally owned by any means. I'll go to, unless you've got to follow up on that, and then we'll go to Councillor Heenan, then we'll go to Councillor Hurdle. No, sorry, I'll go to you and then I'll go over. Yeah, if you have a follow
Sorry.
up on that, so we can,
So it's not exactly a follow-up on this.
well, let's just go.
Okay. So in light of what you've just talked about, I'm certainly prepared to support the two projects getting funding with the understanding that Bayside parking lot would still get done in the next budget year, or hopefully in the next budget year. But I am still concerned about the process of engagement. So we have two new wards. These two projects, well, Bayside Community Hall has always kind of been on our radar because it's been a facility that we've used, many of us have used for a variety of things, both local town people and people in Bayside and Shamcook. And the Dock Road has been, Councillor Bennett, you've been discussing it for many months now in terms of this repair being needed. However, I'm really concerned that we still haven't had a process by which to engage our constituents in Bayside and Shamcook by all of the members of this council to understand what the needs are in the Bayside and Shamcook area. And I know we've talked about it, but we have not put anything in action in terms of identifying a process for that to happen. So while I recognize I'm speaking beyond this motion, I'm certainly prepared to support an amendment to this motion, but I would really like to see us define an engagement process for the two new wards. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the engagement process going forward would be very similar to what it is for the budget process for the town of St. Andrews. So every year you list what projects need to be done in the community, you do a presentation, and Shamcook Bayside are now part of that, right? So if there's projects that people would like to have forward, they've the door is always open to come in and go to staff and say, hey, this is something. But if you're coming about a road, the challenge on that is, as you know, is 41 cents are being collected, and that is the province that is to pay for that. But if there's something that you're missing in your community, if there is something that falls within something the municipality should be in charge of, then they can come forward at any given time. So whenever we get like funds from like a gas tax or something, there's no real like, hey, what do you have? We look at our asset management plan typically is what we would do. And we'd say, where can this money go on our asset management plan? So Shamcook Bayside, when in the future, when we have a public works supervisor updating the asset management plan, Shamcook Bayside should be on the asset management plan. That's what it is. So if there's something that a councillor hears in the community, bring it forward, and then it'll be debated. Like if this amendment goes through, that $50,000 for the restoration of the parking lot, that'll be added to everything else as part of the budget process, and we debate at that time. But the door is always open. There's never like, hey, we got 33,000. Let's start a whole new process to see what we want with that 33. It's part of all of our assets, what we own and what we have to manage is how we do it. So otherwise, every time we get a little grant, we'll have to do a mail out and have a big process, and it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Right. Yep.
So I appreciate that, Mayor Henderson. The one part that I would challenge around that is St. Andrew, the original St. Andrews is, I think, very comfortable in identifying residents of the original St. Andrews. We still haven't come up with a name for it yet, but the people within the original town boundary have been very comfortable in coming forward and identifying what their needs are. I do not believe that that's the case for Shamcook and Bayside. And in terms of looking at it from a change management perspective, this is a whole new reality. Amalgamation created a whole new reality for us. And I think we are required as a council to engage our new residents, at least in the initial year or a year and a half, in terms of the fact that we are interested in hearing from them and understanding what those two wards, what the requirements are for those two wards or in those two wards. So I think I know, Daryl, it's very different for you, Councillor Weir, sorry. It's very different for you. You have a very cohesive group in Bayside. That is not the case in Shamcook. We don't, not like Bayside. So I think it is a responsibility of council to find a way to engage them in terms of what being part of this new entity entails. And now
I totally agree. There is a learning curve with all of this, to your point. And the more as ward councillors and this council as a whole can engage in them, that's something that's certainly encouraged. But any suggestion you have on that process, whether it be an open house, I'm open for suggestions, right? I don't think it's probably unique to this community. I think it's probably something the entire province is probably trying to maneuver through. But yeah, there will be a learning curve with people realizing, and the average member public, I'm confident, still doesn't know what you go to the province for, what you go to the municipality for. We do because we live it every day. But I don't think the average resident that's not paying attention online very often is gonna know, and it's gonna be a long time before they do, unfortunately. So point taken for sure. I do have Councillor Heenan and Councillor Hurdle on the waiting, so we'll jump over to you, Councillor Heenan.
Thank you, Worship. As a newbie on council, when I first started, I discussed about the fact about the road leading to Minister's Island, and that we as the town could take one shot at grading it. And I was told that if we started to do that, then we would acquire ownership, or it would be supposed ownership. So I worry about this with the dock road, that if we do something there, that all of a sudden it'll become part of a town asset. So that's number one. Number two, this amount of money, we should take it as soon as possible, because if there's an election called, it may not be around for that grant to be given. Because new governments usually cancel everything that's outstanding for a while. So that's my two comments. Thank you.
Yeah, so just on that comment, so the way that the Minister's Island worked is we got a permit by DTI, which basically said we're working on their land, so there was no ownership assumed by it. And they approved what the project was, so they approved what was being done on their land. So other than that, it was a one-time. I anticipate this being the same process, Mr. Spear, if it was to go through, that we would apply to DTI, say this is what we're doing, and there would be no ownership associated with that. As far as the second, I guess, Mr. Spear, you can speak to that, but these are funds that are guaranteed for the community, are they not?
I'd assume so, your worship, they come from the federal gas tax fund. And so it's just sitting in a pot and it's reallocated to all the new municipalities over the spring.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. Thank you. Any other discussion? We still have the amendment on the table, just to let everyone know to back up to where we were. Councillor Neil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just start by saying again, I'm not at all opposed to this Dock Road project or discussing it at all. I guess my initial feeling though was that I was comfortable with it being a budget item. In the sense that I was expecting that there would have been more time to actually get some of this research done, find out exactly what it is. I mean, right now, I haven't heard a whole lot as to what we want to do down there other than to shore up the road a bit. So I guess when it was presented as a budget item, I thought that was the right place for it, in the sense that, again, we were going to get further information. We'd be a little bit more informed, I guess, moving forward. That being said, again, some of it has been answered for me tonight with regards to the unassumed road. Again, I was under that same understanding. An unassumed road is essentially a private road. So if we have to apply to the province to get this one-time deal, then so be it. The last thing I just wanted to note was, again, just for information's sake, and again, I'm not disputing what was on the YouTube videos, but I just happened to pull up the minutes from the approved minutes from that May 1st meeting, that read that it was recommended that once staff received the final draft of the building review of the Bayside Hall by the province, that consideration be for funding towards this project. Council provided consensus on this recommendation and to wait until the final report was available for review. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody.
Perfect.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, everybody. Anyone else? Okay, so go to Mr. Spear, and then I'll just get some clarification from council and call the question. Mr. Spear.
Yeah, Your Worship, I just want to go back to Councillor Bennett's initial comments. I think it's a little unfair towards staff about misleading and deceiving. We did included it all the way through, and the general consensus at the meeting was to go to Bayside Hall. Certainly your amendment's fine to say, but I take it as a personal attack to use words like that towards us when we just read the room, did our best. It was there for your consideration, and your amendment is perfectly fine. You could have done that without using those words, to be perfectly honest. We were sitting there that night and we had different ideas. People can bring it in. Councillor Bennett asked about the Docks Road. We put it into next year, said we'll deal with it. So I think it's unfair to be putting that burden on us when we are doing everything in our power to make this happen. We're just talking about whether it's in the next few weeks or early in the spring of next year.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Point taken for sure. All right, council, I've heard that a need for more consultation. I've heard funding. I guess the question is we have no other movements on it. So we have a mover and a seconder on the amendment. So I will call the question. All in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. Just raise your hand so I could. The amendment was that this motion would change from the used for the following projects. One, installation of 2 heat pumps for 17,000 at the Bayside Community Hall. 2 would be repairs to the Dock Road, $15,000. So I'll ask you, just because I don't think this is unanimous, I'll ask you to raise your hand if you're in favor of that amendment. Okay, if you're opposed, raise your hand. Okay, so that amendment has been defeated. So we're back to the original motion. Any more debate on the original motion between, again, this is just for clarity, the one that's before you of installation of 2 heat pumps and restoration of the parking lot. Any other comments? I've got 2 hands. I think Councillor Hurdle got there, and then I'll go to you right after Councillor Ware.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in terms of the parking lot feature again, because that's not covered in the $33,000. What was the plan for that part? Was it to hold on to it and do it later?
Well, especially since Councillor Weir said you might be able to pull in some old favors. Maybe we'll be able to get it for less, but nonetheless, it'll probably be deferred till the spring. And just have a look. We're hoping to do it sooner, but the weather's kind of turning on us. And by the time we line up somebody, it may be a bit late. To be honest, there's a big lift right in the middle of the thing. I don't know if it's along the seam or stuff. I was kind of hoping to get it done this year, just because I'm thinking the plow driver would really appreciate it. But we'll have to review it and get some quotes, and I'll come back to council in the next, if this is approved, for your discussion, to let me know if you want to proceed with it or go through the budget process. We'll be talking budget next week anyway.
You got a follow up? Yep.
Thank you. I would like to actually move for an amendment of this to approve the 17,000 to go towards the heat pumps, but a way to possibly table the remainder for further discussion with the wards to see what might be the best approach for those funds.
Your worship, just before,
Yep.
The problem we're getting into, I don't disagree in principle, I really don't, but we've got to submit something to the province by the end of this next couple of months. Most people pocketed the money back in the spring and ran with it. We were waiting for that report, which may or may not ever come. And so if we I'd like to table the whole thing and then give us another till next meeting to come up with some alternatives, if you will, so we can submit a report, because on top of everything else, we've actually got to submit a report. So the funds aren't in hand right now. We've got to submit an application to the province and naming what they are. So they're going to want them to balance out. So it'd probably be, say, that 17 for the heat pumps, the remainder on the parking lot, and then the balance would have to be paid by council at a future date. It's what I should be putting on it, but then with discussions during budget, but I'm open to ideas.
So in which case, if it doesn't risk the funding at all, I'd move to table the discussion for the time being. I'm hearing from several councillors that maybe we don't have consensus with all the communities and everyone involved as to what the best approach for these funds might be. And so I'd just like to move to table.
Okay, I've got to move now to table. Could I have a seconder to table to put it on? I've got Councillor Gumashall second to table. Any discussion on the tabling? Okay. If I may, council, just on the tabling, I think it would be maybe good for staff. I know it's only 2 weeks, but to do just a quick staff report on the Dock Road for more information. I think that would be appropriate, just because one of the things I heard that you don't have enough information. So again, I don't expect in 2 weeks for a full engineer report, but maybe a quick meeting, so that can be, I know that the amendment wasn't carried, but it could be part of the conversation. Councillor Ware.
Yeah, that was what I was. But, people on the ground, they know, they can come, good estimate of what has to be done. One time, don't need to, it's very short time frame. But I think it does, that give me comfort, knowing that we can do my thing.
I heard you.
That's all that matters.
You said you were thinking like me, so I liked what you were saying. But yeah, no, just for those that didn't hear, Councillor Ware was just speaking that he'd appreciate the report as well. And it is a tight timeline, but he does think it at least could give us a preliminary estimate to make sure that that the funds will be about $15,000 and a little bit more detail on what specifically would be done. So, okay, so we got a mover and seconder to table. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor of tabling, please signify by saying aye. That is everybody that has been tabled. Good debate. Next one is Recreation and Community Services, Councillor Gumashall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Reference number RCS 231009, submitted by myself. The subject is dog park location options for council consideration, and the background reads: staff have been working on a review of options for a dog park location in St. Andrews. Staff have met with the dog park committee to discuss viable options for locations. We have since narrowed down the options to 2 locations: behind the ball field at Harry Malley Sports Field and the water tower. The dog park committee should be able to hit its fundraising goal of $20,000 this fall. In discussions with the dog park committee, their preferred location is the water tower, as there is an opportunity to have fencing installed this fall with no groundwork needed. With an adjustment to the location at the Harry Mallory Sports Field behind the ball field, work could commence in the spring of 2024 with more groundwork needed. And there's an attached staff report with further details. Council can also have a consultation process with the public on the final location before making a decision. The motion tonight reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews supports the location of the water tower for the new dog park for St. Andrews and to start the project in the fall of 2023. Can I make that motion?
Okay, seconder, I've got Councillor Heenan, and now we're up for discussion. I will say that it says council can have a consultation process with the public before final location, but it also says to start project in the fall, so it kind of seems like a bit of an oxymoron, like we'll consult before our location, but it's saying, hey, we're gonna get going. So I was just wondering, just a point of clarity on that one.
Your worship, I guess it is the dog park committee would certainly like to have it put in sooner rather than later. They didn't think they could make their commitment this fall, but they've almost reached their hurdlestone. But having said that, that location is a new location that the public wasn't quite aware of. And maybe it, Harry Mallory Sports Field was the last one the public was aware. Maybe an opportunity to put it off by at least a couple of weeks or a month, whatever you choose, so we can at least put it out in social media and stuff to try to get some immediate feedback on that. It was just talked about last Wednesday or Thursday. We were putting this together, so we didn't have time to really.
Perfect. Appreciate you wanted to get it on the table as
Yeah.
quickly as possible. Council, over to you at the end of the day, but I almost wonder why we'd approve this motion. We could just do consultation, then come back to this motion after we have some input. Approving it, then doing consultation doesn't quite seem the right process, but Councillor Harlan.
Can you just clarify where the parking would be? Where would the parking be if it was at the water tower? Would it be just, so I saw where the stakes were, and would it be just to the left of the stakes?
Yeah, so right along where the road is, we just put in a little bit more gravel to walk.
Okay.
We don't expect it to be more than 3 to 5 cars at the absolute most at any one time there, so. Good thing about a flat field, if we're wrong, we can always add more gravel in future years to
Yeah.
widen it out.
Any other questions?
No.
It's good. Councillor Heenan.
I totally agree with the public consultation, but I do believe that we should have a limit on 10 days or whatever we decide on to have written objections or written pros to this. We've debated this dog park for some time, so it would be nice if they had some direction, because they're really pushed against the wall for larger donations, etc. So that would just be my suggestion only. Thank you.
Councillor Blanchard.
If we did go to a public consultation, what's the timeline on something like this? What's the turnaround?
It's whatever you want. And I don't mean to throw it back at you, but it really, if we're going to do it this year, the truth is we should do a really short public consultation for 2 weeks. So when we come back to the meeting in 2 weeks' time, your second regular session, you can make a decision, because wait till November. By the time we order it, the snow will be down and the ground will be frozen before the fencing company can get into town. So we were in emails back and forth with them today, and I think they said 7 weeks was if we placed an order right now before they could get here, just to give you the timeline. So to install the dog park, I'd say we need we need a decision 2 weeks from yesterday, which would put us on the 16th, I think. Or you hold 30 days and postpone it to the spring.
Just
Councillor Blanchard, I'll let you do a follow-up.
Yeah, thanks. Honestly, I'd like to move on it now myself. I mean, that's what I would like to do. I appreciate more public consultation. I feel like we've had a lot. This to me wasn't a new idea. This was actually one of the original locations proposed way back when. We as a town sort of shot it down, not so much shot it down, but expressed concerns that, the possibility of having a new water tower, we may need the space. So there were a number of issues that were raised by staff at the time, which sort of precluded this discussion. But I think it was a preferred location. It was out there within the public. I don't know that there were a lot of negative comments about that location where it was sort of removed from, a lot of housing and things like that. It wasn't necessarily close by to anybody. It wasn't going to interfere. Anyways, that's sort of my thought. Like I said, it's been out there before. I'd like to see us move on this so we could actually get it done this fall as opposed to waiting till the spring. But that's just where I stand. Thank you.
Perfect. I agree. I'll go to you. I agree on the buffer. It's got quite a bit of buffer between households out there, so that's not as big a concern. Although maybe someone does feel differently out there. But does the actual dog park committee, so they are aware of this and support this? So that's the most. They represent the user group, right? They're the ones that are fundraising. They're the ones. So they're the. So to me, it comes down to just the neighborhood to make sure they're aware that it was, but it was originally as part of the consultation process, to your point, right? So point taken. Councillor Heenan.
Your worship, I would support Councillor Blanchard and get this call tonight and get it done. Thank you.
Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, worship. Yeah, I totally agree with. I know that we've been with this process for a very, very long time, but in my mind, just my only thought is I've never seen a dog park alongside a highway before. So I'm wondering if the town would be amenable to road signage to indicate that there's a dog park here. I just wouldn't want something to happen. Dog gets free, it's going to make for that highway. Then I just that could be a bad news story real quick. But I also agree that we need to get this moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. We do have a deer crossing sign, so we could add a dog right under it, right? There is one there, right? Yeah, but point taken is there should be something there marking it. And there would be, based on the original sketch, the plan was to actually have a dog park sign there. So we could add something around that as well, close to the road that says slow down, right? So, and it is a 70 through there, isn't it still? Yeah, so, yeah. Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to add to what Councillor Blanchard had mentioned there, do we recall if there were any major opposition to this project when it was originally proposed for that location? Not to put you on the spot, but
from staff's perspective, originally it was because of the potential of a new water tower. Because of the ease of installing what it is, the dog park committee is aware that it may have to be moved in the future, and they were okay with that.
Okay.
So that's really it. There's been a couple of people who commented that, do you want that to be the first thing you see when you come into town? But that's personal opinion, not anything. And it was our recollection, although I don't have my notes in front of me, that they'd kind of rejected it too early on, the dog park people, because they thought it was too far outside of town to walk a dog. But now they're saying it'd be okay, that they're talking about that even at the Harry Mallory sports field, 3/4 of the people are going to drive the dog up there, except for the people that might live in the subdivision to give them that run. So.
right.
Yeah, technically it's more centralized now. Yeah.
Yeah, personally, again, I don't feel the location is really that detrimental, being at the water tower versus the sports field. Again, I think it's centrally located. I would just add to, again, I've seen a note here from the dog park committee that funding fencing has assured them that they can do it by mid-November as well. So I guess that's probably their cutoff time.
Anyone else? It sounds like we've got a couple people that would like to continue along with this motion. So it is on the table as stated, ignoring the background. Obviously, it's the motion at the end of the day is what the action item is. So the motion stands the way it is unless somebody sees differently. So any more debate? Otherwise, I will call the question. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Council, that has been approved. We are through our motions for this evening. Nothing under new business. Question period. Did anything come in, or is anyone on the line? Maybe do the call online for a hand, and then we'll ask the room.
Ms. Malincamp, if you have a question for council, can you please raise your hand? Ms. Malincamp, if you have a question for council, please raise your hand now. No questions.
Thank you very much. Nothing submitted online, Mr. Knopper. And the members of the audience do not want to ask a question this evening. So we are moving ahead to councillor comments. Councillor Harland.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. So I just wanted to give a thanks to the Healthy Seniors Pilot Project team. They had their final wrap up on Thursday at the in the arena. And we got to hear about the final, so the Healthy Seniors Pilot Project was a civic engagement process that was funded by the province and Health Canada, Public Health or Public Agency of Canada. And the leads for it were Peskotomuhkati Lodge and St. Thomas University. So this civic engagement process was requesting the community to identify some of the priority needs for seniors in order to support them to stay in their own homes. It was very well attended. It happened over the course of, I think, up to 2 years. I think it was 2 years, 2 years plus. Yeah. And there was a lot of participation, which speaks volumes to the process that the team used for engagement. The recommendations that came out of this pilot project will be used by both Peskotomuhkati in terms of their action plan and the Age Friendly Committee in terms of their action plan. So there's a structure by which to move some of the action items forward, which is great. It was also announced at this final meeting that Peskotomuhkati Lodge was approved for the Nursing Home Without Walls program, which is great. As was discussed earlier in this council, the new resource center for the Nursing Home Without Walls will be here at the back end of the St. Andrews Wellness Center. And Keach has been identified as the coordinator for the project. We look forward to working with her. I think it will be a phenomenal resource for this, for Charlotte County. It is a Charlotte County initiative. It's not just a St. Andrews initiative. And I just want to say kudos to everyone who put tremendous work into moving this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harlan, and the town of St. Andrews being a partner in that certainly welcomes them to your point. And for those of you that want to understand more about it, once it's up and activating, just stop in and find out what services they act. It's very broad, anything from, resources that you need as aging in place, but even potentially how to save, get a rebate on your MB power bill. So there's resources out there, and to have somebody that's might not have all the answers, but someone willing to dig to try to find them, that's going to be a wonderful resource for us. So thank you, Councillor Harlan, for drawing attention to that. Any other member of council? Councillor Weir.
Microphone, Councillor Weir.
I need a remote for that.
I can't see now, I haven't got my eye, but I probably haven't been keeping council up to date on everything that's going on in Bayside. We've always just done it. And but the Bayside Hall, we're currently upgrading the kitchen to meet Department of Health standards, and we're paying for that through the hall funds that we'd accumulated. Simpson Hill Trail, which I'm sure many people in St. Andrews use, we are enlarging the parking lot and compacting it and making it, just so more cars can get in there comfortably. Latest thing I've been working with Mr. Spear on is the terrible mess of the garbage container on Shamcook number 3. And I'm now working with Mr. McCabe on it, and he's passed me along to the garbage collection people. So I've offered to help them get the landowner's permission to put up a fence around the container and in some way control the just unsightly mess that is there. We did get Mr. McCabe to clean it up once, and he has assured me he will not send a bill to the town for that cleanup. So, these things are just ongoing, and we're so used to doing them and looking after them that I really don't report to council on what we're up to. So, and I'll try to do a better job.
No, that's fine, Councillor. If you're working with the CAO on an issue, the CAO will bring it forward if council overall, we like the updates, by the way, but it by all means, if you're working on an issue with a resident with Mr. Spear, that's well within your duty, and I certainly appreciate you doing that as well. But yeah, if anything ever needs to come to us, by all means, bring it forward. But don't feel bad for that, because I know you are taking care of your residents. I will say, just to add on to your point though, is there has been now multiple reports made on aggressive bear in the rural areas, and that is not necessarily the problem with the bear. It's the fact that there's a number of issues that I guess communal, like when it's grouped with dumpsters, but it's also individual households that aren't properly storing their garbage. And that's what one of the residents said, is that literally it's very easy and they're getting used to getting it. So it's just something to remind residents to please store your garbage properly, because it is starting to bring wildlife into the areas, because there's been at least 2 reports to me on separate occasions in the last month. Councillor?
I will comment on that, in that I have had a few phone calls that residents have asked me to come over and shoot the bear by the dumpster. And I tell them I'm a class 1 New Brunswick guide, so I'm not breaking the law. And from what I understand, DNR will not trap the bear unless they can get the whole family and move them elsewhere. So we're in a bit of a difficult spot. I saw the bear right down beside my barn one day in the middle of the day. So I didn't have any garbage there. I don't know. I guess he was just traveling through, but it is a problem.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Neil, I like this. Let us go today.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to offer a special thanks to our town wharfinger, David Laflemme, for going above and beyond his regular duties there and assisting the St. Andrews Fire Department a couple of weeks ago with retrieving 2 people that had become stranded over on Minister's Island. I know it's not part of his regular duties, but when asked, he didn't even hesitate. He quickly jumped in the boat and was able to pick them up on shore and deliver them back safely to their vehicle. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I do recall that night it was the Dragon Boat Festival day. We could have quickly paddled over there and got the individuals very quickly, but no, not to take away, but to the point is he was quick to go over and get them, because it was a little while ago, but we know someone making the wrong decision and trying to cross on their own. There's a lot at stake there. So very, very fortunate that he was able to do that. So thank you for highlighting that. Any other member of council? Deputy Mayor Akaji.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. I just want to say thank you for Truth and Reconciliation Day, which was Saturday. I went to St. Stephen. They had a gathering at 1 p.m. and then we had ours at 5:30. And I'd like to thank a few people like staff, Paul Knopper and Mr. Spear, for helping me out with a lot of things that needed to be done in the background and setting up tables and getting the speaker system. It was awesome that you helped me out. And also on the posters with Mr. Hanselbecker, he did all of that and organized it. And I'd like to thank the staff, that Nancy Cooper and Norma Stewart, who helped me, because when I went in and said, I need this photocopied or I need this done, they were right there to help me out. And then I want to thank the people that I borrowed drums from, because next year, I promise you, we will have 75 of our own drums going around that point. But this year they were not seasoned, so we had to wait. And Judith Moses, who was on the Truth and Reconciliation board, as well as she's on the St. Stephen University board, and the St. Stephen University students that came and assisted us as well. Even though there was a small number, they did help us out. And all of the people that came, and Debbie Lord, who helped smudge, and Muriel Jarvis, who helped smudge, because I can't be in all places at all times. And it was very nice to have the extra hands and the extra people there. So I thank the council for showing up, and because it is an important day, at least for myself. I know it's very, well, it's a sad day and it does take a lot out of me, but I still think that we are honoring those that have either survived residential schools or did not survive the schools and were found in graves. I know that it's a tough thing that has happened, but it was nice to see in that walk, there were survivors that walked around the point and they spoke on the solemn walk and the drum. And it was nice to hear. I know I was there with Mr. Nopper, and we were collecting all the things that we needed to collect, and you could hear that drum coming around the point. Next year, I know I'm going to hear 75 plus drums. And I do thank everyone who came. It was an awesome day. We had a great day, and it was wonderful to have all those people there. And one more thing I'd like to mention is bus parking on King Street. I happened to be at Spindrifters doing cards, and this irate bus driver came in and asked a senior to move her car, which she kindly got up to go and do. And he was very irate about she was so slow. Well, as a senior, we don't move too fast, but she went out and moved her car. But that's not just a bus parking place. It is, the sign says bus parking, but it doesn't say bus parking only. And she had parked. She did get up. She did move it. And I feel we did all that we could. I feel that we asked the buses to park on there because it's a wider street. But he was saying there were 5 buses coming. I never saw the extra buses, but we did move the car. And I felt bad for the senior who kind of got, what do you say, agitated by this person because she was trying to move her car. And I think, you know, we are a tourist town and we try to do what we can do, but you can drop your passengers off downtown now and drive around the point or park your car elsewhere or park your bus elsewhere if you feel that the bus parking is not available. And it wasn't. I mean, Monday was a very busy day in the town. If you were downtown, I mean, we had to park our cars up by the 2 blocks up from where we were going to play cards. So I think it's reasonable to say that we try our hardest, but you know, maybe he just had a bad day. I don't know, but I think you have to take it into consideration that seniors do try to move out of the way, but we're just not fast moving people anymore. So thank you very much. And thank you, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You did forget to thank one person, which naturally you would with Truth and Reconciliation Day. I know it was a sad day, but it was, if there was a positive takeaway, it's how many people turned out to do it. But person to thank is actually you for your leadership, because you do a fabulous job of that event. And I'm not sure of all the gatherings across the province, but I got to still think it's one of the largest, if not the largest. So thank you for all that you do to make that possible. And I will say the PA is a lot better than the megaphone. So thank you to staff for setting that up, because I know it takes a generator and everything like that. So there is some work with it. So thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just had one quick thing I wanted to add in, just so everyone is aware. Horizon is doing a community health needs assessment in our community. There is a link where you can access more information and give feedback. It is letstalkhorizon.ca/CHNA. Still, because of my dentist appointment, kind of almost fighting some of the words right now because my mouth's just still a little numb. But if you have any questions, you can also call 259-0697. It's very important to do the community health needs assessment to let them know some of the challenges and shortfalls that we have in our community, as we know that there is a number all across our province right now. So certainly, sometimes if you don't speak, it doesn't sound like there's a problem. So let's make sure to be engaged in that. And if anyone doesn't even pick that up, you can reach out to Town Hall and that information will be available. Okay, we are going to close session for one item, I believe, this evening. Mr. Nopper, it is for, I think, Section C. Is that correct?
You're right, Your Worship. So at 7:57 p.m., that council enters into closed session as per the Local Governance Act, Section 68 1C, information that could cause financial loss or gain to a person or the local government or could jeopardize negotiations leading to a contract.
Perfect. I need a mover for that. I've got Councillor Heenan and seconded by Councillor Blanchard, all in favor of going to closed session. Thank you, everyone, for attending online tonight. Congratulations to our community award winners. We'll give a minute for technology to shut down.